Marvel Strike Force fans, I am Cerebro, your community manager, and welcome to your community update. For the news this week, I actually want to let you know about some news that's going to be coming over the next couple of weeks over on our website, marvelstrikeforce.com, in the update section. We plan to share some details about the forthcoming Doom Raid 2, Gear Tier 16, also called Teal Gear, and some improvements to Alliance War, among other things. One of the best ways you can make sure you know about these announcements the very minute they are published is by going to the official Discord server and following the Game News channel. Honestly, I really cannot recommend doing this enough. What I also can't recommend enough is today's interview. Let's jump right in. It's a good one. And growing a beard. I recommend that too. All right, guys, we're back. I'm super happy to have back with us on the show, Mr. Byron Melsack. You're looking great. How you been?
Doing great. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, really quickly, for those that may have missed it, last week I was on Marvel Entertainment's YouTube channel, and there we briefly talked about in a video live stream that Weapon X is going to be the next team coming to the game. We talked a little bit about it's going to be a rework for Wolverine and Sabretooth as well. But you're here today to tell us about the third member of Weapon X.
That's right, Cerebro. I'm happy to announce that the third member of the Weapon X team and also the next legendary character in Marvel Strike Force is Wolverine's lethal nemesis, Omegare드.
For those that might not be aware, who is Omegare드? How did he meet up with Wolverine, and how do they come to butt heads so fiercely?
So Omegare드 is a Russian mutant that has the ability to siphon energy from his victims and transfer it into health for himself. He was eventually recruited for the Russian super soldier program and was outfitted with carbonadium implants. In order to stabilize those implants, Omegare드 needs a carbonadium synthesizer. But that tech was actually stolen by Wolverine and Sabretooth. This spurred Omegare드 to start hunting Wolverine and kickstarted a bloody long-term rivalry between them.
So I know that Marvel usually gives us a fair amount of freedom to create like our own unique version of characters that are kind of distinct for Strike Force. Is there anything you want to point out on this character model that our players might notice as being distinct here?
I'm glad you mentioned the carbonadium tentacles because that's what I would point to first. You can see that there are red spikes at the end of each of his two tentacles, making them even more menacing. Also on his back are two winding mechanisms that work to extend and retract the tentacles. It's one of his defining characteristics, so we wanted to give them the extra attention.
Yeah, that's cool. We kind of just draw a light even more the fact that those are like implants and they kind of like, you know, they extend and they wind up and go back inside. I think that's a really cool detail.
Yeah, and we make use of them in all of his abilities.
All right, time for the meat and potatoes. Let's get into Omegared's kit. As usual, we like to start with the passive. This one's called Death Factor.
Yes, aptly named. And this one's a doozy, so strap in. So starting off on spawn, he applies defense up to himself and all Weapon X allies. He heals himself every turn, and for his first 3 turns, he gains a stacking damage bonus. When he takes a significant amount of damage, he gains speed up and some death proof. If an enemy has immunity, the positive effect, he increases the crit chance for himself and Weapon X allies by a significant amount. On spawn, if he has his full Weapon X team, he lowers the enemy team's damage. He provides bonuses to damage and health to Weapon X allies in war mode. Also, in war, on spawn, Omegare드 gains speed bar for each Weapon X ally. This works similarly to Magneto's passive with his Brotherhood allies. Then, he steals health from all enemies and redistributes to himself and all of his Weapon X allies. And finally, if he has a complete Weapon X team with him, he applies trauma and heal block to all enemies.
Okay, you weren't kidding. There's a lot there. Let me dive into a couple of these things here. First thing you mentioned, the word trauma. What exactly is that?
So this is a brand new negative effect that prevents enemies from removing or flipping debuffs on themselves or their teammates. Trauma can be resisted like any other negative effect, but if it sticks, you won't be able to subsequently clear it. So you can think of this as the negative effect version of Adam Warlock's Safeguard.
So the part of the ability where it says if any enemy has immunity, you gain bonus crit damage, that sounds like something new. I don't think there's any other characters that have something that works like that before. What are some of the teams or characters where Omegared's going to be able to make the full use of his ability against them?
There's some powerful teams right now that feature a lot of immunity. Marauders and Infinity Watch, for example, have a lot of immunity to spread around to the entire team. And also to be clear that this doesn't stack. So if multiple characters have the immunity buff, this doesn't stack on top of each other. Just as long as one character has immunity, then your team will get the significant bonus to crit chance.
Okay, so it's almost kind of like a toggle. Like as long as there's that immunity on one of the members of the other team, it toggles on, and if there's not, it toggles off and can go on and off, right? During the fight.
Correct.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to the ultimate ability, and somehow I get the impression there's going to be more trauma in the future here.
Well, this one is called Tentacle Onslaught for a reason. So, starting off, Omegared flips all positive effects to all enemies. The primary target has ability block applied to them. Then, strap in for this one, then he deals heavy damage, applies slow, heal block, and then reduces speed bar to all of his enemies. He also steals health from all enemies and redistributes to himself only. This bypasses heal block. So in many cases, Omegared can recover from the brink of death with this ability. And finally, in war, this applies trauma to all enemies.
There's several characters I can think of where it's like, oh, you get them down to just that sliver of health, and then if they get to take another turn, they fill all the way back up again. It's great when you get to do it. All right, let's snake our way over to his special ability, please.
Yeah, this one's called Coil Rush. Omegared deals heavy damage and applies offense down to the primary and adjacent targets of this attack. He steals some health from each of those targets and redistributes to himself, again, bypassing heal block. The primary target of this attack also has trauma and ability of block applied to them. This is the only application of trauma that can be used outside of war. And finally, Omegared applies speed up to himself and all Weapon X allies.
Okay, so in this ability, we can use trauma anywhere. Doesn't matter. The game.
Correct. But it is only to the primary target, even though this is technically an area and effect attack.
Okay, so you raised a good point about trauma, especially if it can be used outside of war. Is that a negative effect that could be spread from somebody like, say, Hela, who can spread negative effects to other enemies? Or is it something like stun where it won't be able to be spread?
That is an excellent question, and we treat trauma like stun, where it cannot be spread because of just how impactful it is.
And finally, his fourth ability, the basic ability. Can you run that down for us, please?
Sure. This is Carbonadium Lash. He attacks a target for good damage and steals a bunch of health from them, redistributing to himself, and you guessed it, it bypasses heal block. This also prolongs bleeds, slows, and offense down. So try to pick out targets that have these negative effects to further punish them. All of these effects work on his counterattack, assists, and ISO attacks.
So, those ISO bonus attacks would really come in handy here then, wouldn't they? Speaking of which, what are some of your personal recommendations for ISO 8 classes that you're finding are working out well with him?
Well, the most powerful is definitely Striker because of his health steal and prolonged negative effects working on his ISO bonus attack.
Now, he does a lot of healing, though, but you're not recommending healer. There's a specific reason for that?
Sure. So the healer ISO class specifically benefits classic heals, but health steal actually functions differently, so he won't be able to get the same benefit. This is also why health steal bypasses heal block.
So going back to something I mentioned earlier, we've already announced reworks for Wolverine and Sabretooth, but one of the questions that I've just been hounded with since I did that is, are they also getting stats boost in addition to improvements to their ability text? Do you know that?
Yes. There are going to be increases to Wolverine and Sabretooth's base stats for health, damage, armor, focus, resist, and speed. They're going to feel far more powerful and closer to the stats of our newer character releases. They are not going to be slouches.
There. You guys can stop hounding me now. It's coming. So in typical fashion, legendaries are usually kind of like the linchpin that holds teams together. We talked about 2 team members. How many more members of Weapon X will there be?
There will be 2 more members of Weapon X that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks.
So once we finally are able to reveal the full team, in which modes of the game are we anticipating Omegared and Weapon X being the most potent?
As there are many callouts to this mode in his abilities, Omegared will be the most powerful in war. It's only in war where his passive and ultimate would be able to apply the new trauma effect to the entire enemy team.
And finally, the big question, sure everybody's like screaming at the screen to ask right now, is how are we going to be able to get Omegared? What are the requirements?
Omegared is the second legendary character that's being released through a mythic legendary event. The characters required at a minimum of 5 stars each are Captain America Sam, Maria Hill, Sharon Carter, Nick Fury, and Winter Soldier. Additionally, you'll need to get them to a minimum of Gear Tier 12 and ISO 8 T1 Level 3.
And when can we expect to see the Mythic Legendary event for Omegared be running?
Sometime during the next version release.
All right, Byron. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by. Always love to hear all this information direct from the horse's mouth. Please come back and let us know what you're going to be working on next.
As always, Cerebro, thanks for having me on. I had a ton of fun.
All right, let's check in on the extended community, and we are going to be going first over to our official Facebook group. Carl Fessler shared a screenshot of him nabbing 180 character shards of Cloak. Now, of course, is the time where we all clap and say we're happy for him. At the same time, we're muttering that some guys get all the luck. Next up is Rob Nichols, who shared a screenshot of his Dark Dimension 2 progress, which is currently taken, sure get this right, 1 year, 111 days, 11 hours, 19 minutes, and 42 seconds. Okay, Rob, what were you distracted with? Were you reading all 800 plus issues of The Amazing Spider-Man? I really gotta know. Okay, I'm probably gonna butcher this, I'm sorry. Olamide Obadode shared a screenshot of some nondescript battle happening with only 4 seconds left. But what interests me here is the lineup. Look at this. You've got Sif, Rhino, Swarm, Mantis, Mr. Sinister, Captain America Sam, and Elektra. I haven't seen a diverse gathering of this magnitude since the Secret Wars. Troy Burkhalter shared a photo of this amazing and most likely delicious Hydra cake. The only question I have now is who's waiting inside of that cake to jump out and yell surprise? I bet you it's a dancing Zemo. Let's head on over to the official Discord server and check out some artwork submitted through the fan art channel. Artist Viz Loki submitted this illustration of, well, Vision and Loki. Who knows what could have possibly brought these two together? Maybe a support group for Thanos victims. This pencil drawing of Deadpool by Snowman has some very detailed line work and some nice contrast. But what's up with the second version of Deadpool floating in the top right there? Is that like him imagining what he's going to do next? I don't know, you guys let me know in the comments below. This render of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man by The Spider 135 shows the web slinger leaving a rave? Passing a unicorn convention? Well, either way, it's chock full of color and I love it. And finally, Ninja Smacks submitted his own version of the famous scene where Doctor Doom commandeers Namor's horn and, quote, toots as he pleases. Well, I'm glad he can get away with it, because when I toot as I please, I usually tend to get some funny looks in response. And finally, I'd like to highlight a great content creator out there that offers some great advice for the community. He goes by the name of Philosopher. His videos focus on many different areas of the game, and he has some great tips and commentary that can benefit all levels of players. You can check him out on youtube.com/philosophermsf. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please be sure to share this video with your alliance mates. Hit the like button down there, helps a lot. Subscribe. We'll see you next time. Man, the Marvel comics from the 80s and 90s. As much as I like the stories, I think what I love more are the ads for the retro Marvel video games. Love to make an ad like that. Huh.